Hello and welcome back to another episode of Wrenches, Gadgets, and Hacks, the AECO technology podcast for the curious and creative in AECO. If you've been listening along, you know we are in Series 3. It'll be the last series of the year, and we thought it would be a good idea to end the series with an AECO Tech Geek Gift Guide. It seemed fitting for the season. You can see we're getting close. When this drops, it will actually be 4 weeks exactly before the big day. So John and I thought we would help you out with some suggestions for those AECO Tech Geeks on your list for this holiday season.
Definitely.
So I thought probably the easiest way to do this, and John and I were sort of talking, is we would come up with a list of categories. And it sort of seemed fitting, again, 'tis the season, like the 12 days of Christmases, or just Christmas, depending on if you want more than one, that we should have a category with, or a list with 12 categories. I definitely need some more coffee this morning. So I thought that we would do that. We came up with 12 categories. I won't spoil the fun by giving them away. I will mention that they are in alphabetical order. So if the order seems a little bit loosey-goosey, that's why. It just seemed like I should do them in alphabetical order. And I think we'll just take turns talking about them. We hope this to be an annual thing. This is the first one. So if it's not as smooth as butter, I hope you apologize. But I guarantee, I don't mean to point there, I guarantee that you'll find something, probably a few somethings that you hadn't heard of, hadn't thought of, and maybe would like under the tree for yourself this year. Any thoughts about the AECO gift guide, John? What do you think?
Well, I think it's good. And I think there's a lot of stuff that I almost started adding stuff I wanted, I was trying to be sneaky and work in ones just in case anyone wants to send something to me, but I ended up putting stuff on there that I've used and I tend to know a little bit about. So I refrained. I restricted from putting my own wish list there, hoping coworkers or my wife would listen and buy those things, right?
Well, I must say you're a better man than I, because there are a few things on the list that I wouldn't mind having myself. But I did stay fairly true to your idea. A lot of them are things that I've used, I've seen, I've heard of. I've used similar products and want to upgrade or change. So I think that's a good way. If you're listening or if you're watching, there'll be a list of everything that John and I both suggest with links and all of that stuff to the show notes. So if you haven't yet gone to check out the show notes, this is definitely the episode that you want to do that in. And I think that is a good a spot as any to start. So the first category, 3D printing.
And that was the first podcast, wasn't it?
It was. It's funny how it's this big
Whoa.
circle. Everything just sort of comes back to the beginning. Flip a coin, age before beauty. How do you want to decide who goes first?
You could go first on this one. That's fine.
So our first category, 3D printing. John, what's on your list?
Yeah, on my list. So I'm looking at your list too, and I'm going to steal from it, but I won't spoil it. 3D printing, we've talked a lot about. I run Creality printers, so I'm kind of partial to the Ender series. So any Ender printer will get you started pretty quick. You can get them refurbished. A lot of times I bought my first one refurbished from B&H Photo, which is a company out of New York, and it was $100, $120. It was really low. And then I did upgrades to it. So definitely just in general, a 3D printer nowadays, and it's on your list, so I won't say it. I'll let you cover it. There are other options that are a little more plug and play, because 3D printing can be one of the most frustrating hobbies you can get into sometimes. There are better options. In addition to that, just tools and accessories. One of my favorite things that I bought, I don't have it here because it's packed, but edge deburring tool. So if you've never heard of it, it's a little tool that has it's not a blade necessarily, but it's a rough edge. And you can run it along the edge of your 3D prints to pull off, it's called an elephant foot. So when you print, you get this thing called an elephant foot that kind of spreads out. And if you run the deburring tool on it, it's no longer a sharp edge. They're a few bucks on Amazon. I think the one I have, I will include a link for it, $7. So life changing just to run it along the edges of your print. So one of these little things. It's a stocking stuffer potentially if you have someone who loves 3D printing, like $8, or you can buy a set of them for like, under $20. So a good Secret Santa gift as well, potentially. And yeah, I learned about deburring tools when I worked in a metal shop way back when. And it's funny that it comes full circle and now use them on 3D printing. So yeah, that's kind of my main one is those tools.
Nice. I definitely like the idea. I have the X-Acto knife sitting beside my 3D printer,
Oh
so I use
gosh.
that. But it
Yeah.
also, never draw to you. It's not sharp stuff on it. So I'm definitely adding a deburrer tool to my list because I think that would make life a little bit easier. And the
Oh
ones that I've
man, as
seen,
someone who's cut themselves with an X-Acto a few times, I have scars. Like I'm
yes.
okay.
Well, and the thing that I like about the deburring tool, I'm assuming, again, haven't used one, definitely going to get one, but the shape, it makes it a little bit easier when you're going around those organic and sort of
Oh, for
non-straight
sure.
lines, right?
Yeah, you can go around a whole piece. So if you have a weird shaped piece, you can work your way all around it and it pulls it all off mostly as one little like thread, right? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and is that your 3D printing suggestions? I
Yeah.
don't want to jump in before you're done.
No, like I said, I want to steal one of yours, so I'll let you go ahead and go.
All right. So as John alluded to, I also have an Ender 3. Mine's a little bit older than John's, and it's fun. They come the Ender 3 series specifically, you get to build it. It's a true DIY thing. But as John mentions, there's things that you have to do to keep it up. It's a little bit older. The technology's a little bit older. So there are ways that are a little more user friendly. So if you've done any snooping or have looked at any way into 3D printing in the last year, I guarantee you've heard of Bamboo Labs. And they're kind of the current darling of the 3D printing industry. So one of the things I had on my list is a PS1 combo. P1S, I guess is the right way to say it. And what the combo does, and this is one of the things that I really like about the Bamboo units, is it gives you the ability to feed in more than one filament at a time. So typically you have filament,
Yes.
that's the plastic little wire that you feed in that you print. It gets hot, it melts, and it makes your print. This allows you to have up to 4 different colors attached at the same time. So if you're printing something that's 2 colors, you don't have to stop, change, put it back in. It will actually automatically change the feed for you. Now the P1S is kind of, I would say, the mid range. For me it's like $700, but that's Canadian, so 25 cents in American. Not quite, but it's a little bit more. It's completely enclosed. It's a nice unit, especially if you're doing like a printer farm. However,
Hmm.
if you're just starting out, there is what they have called, or what they call their A1 series. It's like their starting series, and there's an A1 combo series. Good entry level, but they also have the A1 Mini, which is tiny, tiny
It is a
little
little portable
portable.
thing.
And you can use a combo light, which basically means you can have 4 different colors on this tiny little printer and auto levels. It has a touch screen. You can get it for under $200
Camera.
American. It is amazing. Yeah, I forgot about the camera. So if you're looking to start and you want to start turnkey, don't walk uphill both ways like John and I did starting with our Enders, which are still good
Yeah.
printers, by the way. Definitely check out the Bamboo Labs series again from the A1 Mini, which is inexpensive and easy to go, and they're on Black Friday sale right now, up to something a little
Hmm.
more high tech like the PS1 or
For
P1S. I always
sure.
say that backwards.
And I think like an interesting thing about these is they are the extruded printing. So it's like a glue gun, a hot
Yep.
glue gun, right? They win over people who do the other printing, the
The resin.
gosh, the resin. So I have a friend, Peter. He was all about resin when I asked about 3D printers. He's like, you need to get a resin printer. The details are way better than this. And then when I got my Ender, I was talking to him about it, and he found Bamboo because he had been kind of out of the game for a bit for 3D printing. And when he saw it, he like immediately ordered the P1S, the whole set for the 4 rolls, and a bunch of filament. He's like, and this was like last year now. He's like, yeah, I just spent like $1,000 on like printer stuff because I'm sold on the Bamboo Lab one, and he loves it. He's printed all sorts of cool stuff. So it's definitely they're really cool machines, and like you said, they're like the darling of the industry right now. And the cheaper ones are even nice. So like if I were starting today, I'd probably get the A1 myself.
And as I mentioned, I think it'll still be when this comes out, but they're having a Black Friday sale on now. So
Hmm.
if you're looking to get started, this is the time.
Yeah, for sure.
The one other thing, and you'll find that I have suggestions and then backup suggestions and then sometimes backups to the backups on this list. Like anything else, we're all geeks, so once we start talking about a topic, we tend to carry on. But if you're looking to learn about 3D printing, there is a website on YouTube called Chips or Cheps, CHEP, Filament Friday. If you're a hockey fan, the Winnipeg Jets, Connor Hellebuck, the goalie that's just crazy good. His dad, Chuck, runs this. It's Chuck Hellebuck's Electronic Products. But every week he does a little review of something, including 2 weeks ago, he talked about the A1 Mini and how it's a great portable printer and how he loves it. So if you're looking to learn, great thing on YouTube. Again, there'll be a link in here. There's tons of great stuff about 3D printing on YouTube. There's no shortage. But this is just one that I found when I was starting out that I found very helpful. A lot of Ender stuff. So if you're, again, starting with that, but also a lot of this new Bamboo Lab stuff. So it's a great place to get going.
Very cool.
All right. So that brings us to the next one on the list. Again, alphabetical order. So that would be AI, artificial intelligence. I'm sure you're all shocked to find this on our list.
That was a whole last series, AI.
It was. It's again, we keep bringing things around, right? Imagine that.
There you go. Awesome. You want me to go first again?
I guess I guess that's the way we're gonna go.
That
Otherwise, I'll just
works.
keep talking,
Okay.
right?
No worries. Yeah, so I have a couple things on here that I use day to day that have some AI kind of integration into them. And one of them's My Mind is what it's called. That's literally the name of the tool. It's a software. And what it is it's like a bookmarker. So like if you've used the Notion web clipper before or any of those kind of web clippers, Firefox Pocket is another one. It lets you clip from the web. But what it does is it will actually use AI to auto tag the images for you. So like let's say you save an image of a red chair. It uses AI to add a little label for chair, for the color red, living room perhaps. That way it's really quick to search. So you're able just to kind of capture all this stuff really quickly and search it like just right away, which is nice. It's really nice for like people like me. I find data overwhelming. So like I love Notion, for instance. I really like it, but it also overwhelms me quite a bit. I think that's probably a common theme with a lot of people in the industry too, is a little bit of ADHD. And my mind kind of helps me just throw stuff in there that way I won't forget it. So like if I see something I want to buy, if I see something that I want to remember, I just click that little web clipper on my browser or on my phone and save it right to it. They have a free tier, but they also have a subscription tier that lets you do a lot more. So there's a few options there. I paid for the subscription. It's yearly. I don't really know the price or anything, but yeah, if there was any kind of thing you could gift to somebody who struggles with like organizing things, My Mind's a pretty good one. And then I have one more in AI. I'll go ahead and throw, I actually have three, but I'll throw in another one. Another one I use on a daily basis, and it helped me a ton with a lot of these different things like podcasts and work schedule and personal schedule and all these different calendars. It's called Morgan, so it's Morgen, Morgan Calendar. And what it does is it aggregates several calendars into one interface for you. So you could start to see your work calendar in there, your personal calendar, your podcast calendar in my case. That way I don't forget these things. And then things like home things. So like doctor's appointments and, things like that. They're all integrated into this calendar. It also has a little section in there that lets you do schedulers like Calendly. So like if you've ever heard of Calendly, it lets you do scheduling like that as well. So you get like a full scheduler in there. And they just added an AI feature that if you have a task list, it'll generate your daily schedule for you based on your tasks. So it'll time block for you based on that. So it uses AI to find gaps in your schedule and say, hey, you could probably, in my case, fix that bug in rhythm or something on this day if it's in my task list. So it uses AI to help optimize your week, which is really cool. Time blocking something, I guess, going into the new year that I really want to get good at. So that's one of those things that it hopefully helps with that. So Morgan Calendar and the aggregation's huge for me just because, like, for me, I like if I have a doctor's appointment, I don't have to add it to my work calendar in Outlook and my personal Gmail. I add it to my Gmail and it syncs to my Outlook and just shows it's busy. So it's just been, that one's been a huge tool for me this year, and it has a good chunk of AI stuff integrated into it. But yeah, those are kind of my main two. I think, I don't know if you had it on yours, but we both have voice notes. I don't use it enough, but voice notes, I think it's .com is really cool. And it lets you just record notes right from your voice and search them and all that good stuff. But I'm not very good at using it, I find. So I can't super vouch for it, but it's a really cool tool for you just to dump thoughts in verbally as well. Kind of like my mind, I guess. But yeah, those are kind of the two that I use. I use a lot of AI, but those are like the main ones that I use day to day that I really enjoy.
Yeah, so that's a good list. You're absolutely right about the voice recorder. Same thing. I didn't put it on my list. I have it, but I don't use it enough. And I think the power behind it, if I get, maybe that's my New Year's resolution, to get behind using it, is the fact that it uses AI, kind of like you were saying with the my mind, to be able to search stuff. I have tons and tons and tons of websites that I've bookmarked for some reason or another. I don't remember why at this point, and I never go to look at them because it's overwhelming. There's so much data. So to be able to
Yeah.
use AI to search that, to say, hey, I'm looking for this website, and it pulls it up for you as opposed to that, I think there's a lot of value in that. Now, for my list, I went with a couple of different things. So one is something called Napkin, just like napkin, NAPKIN .ai. And the name kind of implies the idea is that it gives you something to turn your text into visuals. It incorporates typical AI functionality like ChatGPT or whatever. You need to do a report for work. You say, "Hey, I need a report on, the 10 top trends of AECO 2025," and it will give you a list. It'll give you bullet points. You can fill it out. But the part I like about it is that you can pick any particular bullet point, or you can even have your own report that you put into it, and it will create you a visual based on it. And I'm not talking about an image, I'm talking about a pie chart or a flow chart or a chart with different breeds of dogs or anything. And well, creating images or charts isn't mind blowing, although a year ago it would have been. The fact that it allows you to take those charts it's created and then you can edit them. You can change the style. Think about using PowerPoint. Boy, that was a slow one. Using PowerPoint, and you have like 50 different themes, colors. It's kind of like that, but then it's creating it on the fly when you do it. So it really makes the ability to change things and use them awesome. And because it's fairly new, it's still in beta. While it's in beta, you get everything, all of the paid tiers. So there is a free tier, there's a paid tier, and then there's like a super paid tier. But right now it's all included because they want people's input in the beta. So if you do reports or presentations and you need a visual, not necessarily an image, but something like a chart or an ideogram, that's definitely the way to go. My second one is ideogram, like Instagram. Now this is an AI image generator. They're a dime a dozen now. But what I like about this one is 9 times out of 10, it spells the word you tell it to spell correctly. How many times have you generated an image and it looks great, but the name's spelt wrong, or it adds an extra 3 T's, or the writing just looks bad, which I never could figure out because you spell the word in the prompt, but I guess
Yeah.
they're not connected properly in a little black box in the back end. So this ideogram does a great job of that. Again, free tiers, and it's one of the more generous free tiers. You may have noticed over the course of the year, free tiers are becoming less and less. And an unsettling trend is that free tiers will give you 10 credits, 20 credits, but it's not replenishing. You only get that
Yeah.
many, and then once it's done, it's done. But with ideogram, you get, I think it's 20, but it's monthly. It replenishes, so you can
Oh, that's
continue to
cool.
use it. And the last one that I'll throw in here, and I just literally found out about this 2 days ago, and I think it's really cool. It has a weird name. The spelling makes it make sense, but if you say it, it's not so. But it's called nudes.io, but it's NOODS as in noodles. And what it is if you've ever tried to find a recipe on the internet, so you Google grandma's apple pie and you find it, but you have to go through the entire backstory and life history of the person cooking it. There's
I
50
was gonna
different ads popping up. It takes you an hour to get to the recipe. What this does is you simply copy and paste the URL. It takes everything out of the recipe
Oh man.
except the instructions, and then it gives you a checklist. So you check, I've got the apples, I've got the brown sugar, I've got the whatever, and it checks it off. And then it gives you a list of the instructions. And as you do it, you check it off and it grays it out. And it gives you the ability to add information. It says 20 minutes, but I tried it, it's actually 25. And then you save it to your cookbook. Again, it's
That's
fairly new.
awesome.
There's no cost to it. I think it's a computer student's project, but it's really cool. And it's just nudes, NODDS.io. And if you've ever suffered through trying to get a recipe when I just want the recipe, this is the
Like
answer for that.
back when Grandpa worked at this place, we used to always make this chili, and it's like that's fine. I came for the chili though.
Yes, yes. And I get they have to pay for the website. I understand all of that, but
Yep.
sometimes enough is enough. And this solves
Yeah,
that
that's very
problem.
cool. I'm signing up for that right away. That's awesome.
It is very cool. So keep this train moving along. The next one is coding. Obviously, John and I both dabble in it, a very general category. So, John, what do you got for coding?
Yeah, this one was kind of hard for me, but one thing that I know is a good tool to have. So in the like, let's say you even if you had like employees who code, C sharp is kind of what I work in primarily. So that's what I speak from. That's called ReSharper, and it's an extension of Visual Studio. It is a huge help. It takes care of all, for those who know your using statements. It has better auto prediction, all that stuff. It's a magnificent piece of software to add onto Visual Studio. I learned about it from someone else in the community, from Thomas Mahone, who does the Bimorph package for Dynamo. He mentioned it, and I couldn't imagine working without it. I've done AU presentations and uninstalled it because, put yourself in the seat that you're teaching people. And I struggled because I use it so much. It does way more than what I use it for. I just mostly use it because it helps me with my references and all those things. But yeah, it is a paid tool. But if you have an open source project, you can apply to get it for free, which is cool. So if you have like a Dynamo package that's fully open source, you're able to apply and say, hey, I contribute to the open source community. Can you give me a license? And they will. They're really generous in that way. It's from the company JetBrains. Another thing they have is a really great font that's free. It's JetBrains Mono. Another thing just to download. So I'll throw that in there too. But yeah, that's like my main one for coding, I think, is ReSharper. It just makes you, it's like a superpower on top of already using like Visual Studio that helps with a lot of the autocomplete and stuff. But yeah, it's a really good one. We use ReSharper, both developers at Parallax. We both use ReSharper on a day-to-day basis. That's a really great tool.
Very cool. Anything else for your coding before I jump in?
No, I think that's kind of the main one. Yeah.
For me, it's a website called Scrimba, CRIMBA, free paid courses. It's got a really cool online IDE, so you can program. It's more for web languages, so JavaScript, CSS, HTML, React, TypeScript. But one of the reasons I love them is they do something every year called JavaScriptmas, which is 24 days. You have 24 hours to do a little challenge with Java or CSS. They brought AI into it last year. And it's just a really fun way to work with it. There's a big community around it. So if you're having trouble with a particular challenge, you can see other people's work. You can see behind the screen to help you learn. So it's a great way to learn through that. So that's definitely my one. There's obviously AI. AI is a great way to help, kind of like Reshaper to help you get in. Claude is a great one for coding. But something that I just came across recently, and it's part of a tool that John was showing
Oh
me
yeah.
about, it's called TL Draw. So it's an open source drawing whiteboard tool, if you will. But someone in the community created a version called makereal.tldraw.com. And basically, you go to that URL and you sketch up your idea for, say, a web page or a pop-up or whatever it might be, and you click make real, and it actually gives you the JavaScript HTML code to make it a real thing. Now, it runs off of ChatGPT, so you have to have an open what is it? What is the name of the company that does ChatGPT?
API key.
Yes, you need an API from
Yeah.
from OpenAI. There we go. And so there is a cost to it. I put $10 in credits. They last for a year, and I think I've used $1 worth. So if you're not using enough
Very
there, but
cool.
it's a really cool tool to design code by literally sketching.
Oh, and if you don't follow the Twitter feed of the developer, so TL Draws Twitter, man, they post all sorts of cool stuff. Like it's really neat what they're doing. And TL Draw is a backend for multiplayer interactions too, which is really
Yep.
cool. It's like it's a really interesting tool. It started out for like you draw a chair and then it like make a chair. It was like Google Sketch back when they did that too. And I was like, what are they doing with this tool? And then all of a sudden I was like, boom, we're designing full UIs in this thing, and it's a multiplayer backend for JavaScript plugin, like JavaScript apps. It's like, holy smokes. It's a really neat tool. And Make Reel's really cool as well.
Yep. And I think this is a great success story for the idea of community and
Oh,
and open
absolutely.
source, because that's how it's all driven, right? So that,
Yeah,
yeah, it's super cool.
very cool.
All right. Three down, nine to go. I don't think we're
Oh
going to hit
man,
that half hour, but I'll try to speed up. So the
we'll
next
get through
one,
it.
computers, tablets, gaming, hardware type of things. What do you got for that, John?
Yeah, so one of the things I use a ton is a Raspberry Pi. There's a ton of different models. The latest is a Raspberry Pi 5. My main use case for it is running home automation with Home Assistant. They're like $50, I think. I think the price finally leveled out after all of the pandemic stuff. But yeah, Raspberry Pis, they're really fun computers just to hack on. Any mini PC really is really fun just to hack on. It runs my home automation server though for Home Assistant. So fun things. I have another one in there. I just set up a new internet network because I moved. Previously, I used kind of more traditional, like a modem router with satellites around my house. And now I just kind of adopted this Deco mesh from TP-Link, so mesh Wi-Fi. It is amazing. There are all these little like just hubs that you put everywhere, and it creates a mesh network, and it has something called wireless backhaul, which I had never heard of. So in the actual units themselves, you can plug a hardwired Ethernet cable, and it simulates an Ethernet connection, and kind of prioritizes it. So if you have any devices like a server, in my case, a server in my office, that need to be hardwired back to something, that backhaul works for me really well, which is fantastic. And the network has just been so easy to set up. It's plug and play. The specific brand I bought or the model number I bought it Amazon used good condition, which was a gamble. But I was like, oh, I'll buy it a few days before I need it, just in case I have to return it. It's a TP-Link Deco AX3000, I guess is the model number. I got it for like $100 for good. It came and it was in the original box and it was basically brand new. So I was like, oh man, I saved half of the price just with that gamble. So worth doing as well. And it's ran great so far. It's been the easiest network I've ever had to set up, which has been really awesome. And then on top of that, like all my home automation stuff connects to it really easily. So yeah, mesh networks were always foreign to me, but they're really cool. Like, especially with the TP-Link stuff. I have a few other TP-Link items in the rest of my list as well, just because they make really good stuff. Really, really cool company.
They do.
Yeah.
And mesh networking's never the best for those dead spots all over your house, like my office is in the basement behind the furnace. So
Uh,
it's a must have.
there you go. But yeah, it's been really cool. Yeah, those are my two things. I didn't add anything gaming wise. I know that you did. I don't do a whole lot of gaming anymore, but anytime I am, it's a Nintendo Switch that I'm kind of playing on just because it's so easy. I used to play games on a PS4 and all that, but sitting down at the TV to play is just kind of not something that I have time for these days, unfortunately. I bought the Super Nintendo Mini back when it came out, like in 2018, where you had to go wait in line for it. And I'll play that sometimes too, just because I'm a Super Nintendo kid. That's what I grew up on.
I agree with that thing. When I grew up, we quite literally played, if it has more than a joystick and a button, that's too complicated for me, back in the Atari 2600 days. So yeah, I don't have much in the gaming, but I do have one thing that I'll mention. And again, it came from a son. That's where we both
Yeah.
got it from. So, but I'll leave that to the end. My main thing for the computer gaming whatever realm is a stream deck. I don't have one. This is actually on my list that I've shared with anyone out there, but I've always thought they were really cool. And I
Mhm.
have listed if you remember Instructables, I have an Instructables to make your own with a Raspberry Pi, print the whole buttons, the whole deal. And I always thought I would get to it, and I haven't. So now I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll just get one from the professionals, use it, and then when I get my new Bamboo Labs printer, maybe I'll print one. But a Stream Deck, this particular one is the Elgato, the original Stream Decks. Another really cool thing that I just got. super inexpensive, is a little label printer. But not like the little label guns where you print them out. This one's actually a little Bluetooth printer. I think it costs $20. There's an app on your
Very
phone
cool.
and it prints out tiny little labels. I will include in the show notes, as everyone with pets does. When I tested it, I printed a label that said cat and put it to my cat's forehead. They did not appreciate it, but I thought it was funny. It was worth the
I
money
did
to
the
buy the
same
printer
thing.
just for that. And the gaming one that ties us both in, that came from Hassan and sent to both of us, came from an episode actually earlier this year, tying it back to the podcast, is the Analog 3D. And so
Man,
basically, this is a recreation of the N64. Anyone of that
dude,
generation played GoldenEye on it, 100%. But this basically
I have
allows
it
you
here.
to use those old cartridges in a brand new machine that's 4K, more comfortable controllers, all the stuff. This analog company does some really cool things. So they made a Game Boy, all these things where they're reimagining the hardware, but it still uses the old cartridges. So they're not infringing on technology. They're just recreating stuff that's not out there anymore.
It is awesome for sure.
All right. The next list is DIY. Read into that whatever you want. So what do you got for us for the AECO Tech and the DIY space, John?
Yeah, so this one's kind of, it feels unrelated, but like, especially when you're setting up offices and things like that, I find myself having to hang a lot of stuff. And about a year ago or last year sometime, a few recently, I got these wall anchors and I should have grabbed one to bring in here, but they're flat. So, traditional wall anchors, you drill a hole and then you kind of anchor it in and they're gray and then they spread out and all that stuff. These ones are on Amazon and they're these self-drilling anchors. So they're a flat plate. And I mean, I could probably share my screen, but I could just describe it too since it's a podcast. They're just little flat blades that you hammer right in the wall. You drill and then it opens up. And then when you're done, you take the screw out and it closes back up. It's flat. So the hole it leaves in the wall is just a little slit. Super easy to patch and all that stuff when you take down whatever item you're hanging. I keep these on hand all the time just because a lot of times, like more often than not, you're like, let me hang this thing and the studs right off from it. It's almost always not perfect. So yeah, these little wall anchors, and we'll include a link to them too. They're fantastic. They're like $12 for like 200 of them or something. They're super cheap. Like I said, I just always keep them on hand. Another one in the DIY list, and this one I almost put in the 3D printing category, is this screwdriver. So it's the brand's Fantic, but it's magnetic and you push it and it has a ton of bits in here. So when it comes to putting together 3D printers or anything computer related, all those come in handy. USB-C rechargeable, which is great. And then it has like, a light on the front and then it has fast speed, low speed. I use this thing all the time. Like when I've taken apart computers, when I've taken apart 3D printers, it's just came in handy. And it's just all in this like really nice you know, little thing. So really handy kind of screwdriver to have. USB-C, always awesome. That one's always in my desk, and anytime I just need to take something apart quickly, it's right there. That one's been a really cool buy. I actually found out about that screwdriver through a 3D printing YouTube video from Scotty Eugen, who does a lot of Creality stuff as well. And he put like a my tools list for 2023 it was, and that was on there. I was like, I need that screwdriver. So yeah, really cool one.
That I might have to get that because I've been looking for a miniature one like that, but that was automated, that had the power to it. So I'm gonna have to check that one out for sure.
For sure. That's my DIY stuff though.
For me, I went a little more on the techie side. The first one is a website slash web store called Crafting Table. It used to be called Inventor.io. And this is a really cool way to sort of, if you have kids, or if you're like me, a big kid at heart, and you want to learn stuff. So they have a lot of Arduino, they have a lot of coding for Arduino, a lot of Python coding. But the way that they do it is through fun little adventures, they call it. Their big thing was 30 Days Lost in Space. And you order this kit, they send a kit of parts, so it's actual, breadboards and wires and all this stuff that you need to do to code something. But each day you watch a little video, and it's like you're trapped and you're lost in outer space, kind of like The Martian, with the dude from Matt Damon, thank you. And so you learn by going through these different activities every day, and they have a ton of different stuff. So I put it in DIY because it's kind of learning, but it's also you get to build stuff. They had a kit where you build your own little robotic claw. I've got that sitting up on my shelf here. So very cool. In that same vein, anything Adafruit, ADAFRUIT, they do really cool stuff to allow you to create stuff in that space. A lot of Arduino. If anybody was at AU, not this year, but in 2023, I had a big 3D printed tag that had a little digital screen in it. And essentially, that little digital screen allowed me to show my name, show my business card, put a little QR code that people could scan. And that's where it came from. It came from Arduino Fruit. And the last thing that I'll just briefly mention, John and I both have one, is a Cricut. Any sort of vinyl cutting machine, they're super cool and they're a lot of fun.
Definitely. Yeah, the Cricket's really cool.
So
They're pretty
halfway,
inexpensive these days, right?
they are getting really expensive. So last year I got mine at Black Friday, Boxing Day, when they have the sales. But yes, they've definitely, the prices has gone up quite a bit. So, and like a lot of technology, and I'm guilty of this, similar to your hack with your mesh network, is sometimes people buy them and don't really use them. So keep the eye on the used market, because there's something that you might see used, but it's in
Mhm.
good shape, barely used, as they say. Moving along, number 6, halfway there, just learning in general.
Yeah, I mean, so on my list, man, and you added one that I was like, that is awesome because like I actually need to go deal with that, and we'll talk about it when you get to it. But yeah, for AEC people specifically, any of the people that you follow, so we had Revit Kid on here recently. He has courses and a community. He's not just on YouTube. He has that whole community that he mentioned as well. Supporting him in that way by enrolling in his community or buying his courses is great, and you learn a ton. We didn't get to it in the podcast, but following him early on is why I started my blog and everything like that. So I've asked him a lot of questions over the years regarding blogs and courses and things like that. So definitely look at his BIM After Dark community for learning resources, which is great. And on that same note, formerly Revit Pure has a community as well. So BIM Pure Nicholas does really great things, and he's been doing it for a while as well. Yeah, those are kind of the ones that I think for learning that have like a cost associated with them, but they also have free aspects as well for learning. But yeah, also just any forum. Go to the Dynamo forum and you can learn a ton.
Absolutely. And in that same vein, of course, John has some great content, some great courses. Design Tech Unraveled, definitely worth checking out. And I learned this from John, not about his courses, but just in general. His wife talked him into taking an actual, investment in himself to take a boot camp to learn C sharp. So yes, it's great to get stuff for free and especially to try, but at some point it comes to that stage where you have to invest in yourself and put it out there.
Hmm.
And you do get more when you pay for it. You don't get just bid, you learn more. So it's definitely worth that. And at this time of year, all these things we've mentioned, there's probably some deals to be had. So be sure to take a look, check the links.
Definitely.
I also am a big fan of micro learning. I won't talk about it too much because I've talked about it to death, but you've heard about my 100 days of AI, where you get these little snippets of things, whether it's just yourself learning a little bit at a time each day. It's a great way to learn and remember. And the hack for this is that what a lot of people don't know is that there's a ton of great stuff on LinkedIn Learning, and a lot of major cities, it's free if you have a local library card. So if you go to
Hmm.
your library and get a local card number, you can get LinkedIn Learning for free, and it's unlimited. So there's a ton of great value in LinkedIn Learning that you can get. And if you have a library card, you're supporting the library and you're supporting those at LinkedIn Learning. So
It's a
definitely a good hack.
huge deal. I don't even remember where I found out about that, but I didn't have an updated library card. It had been years. I went and got one right away because, yeah, you get full access to all of it. And mine's expired right now, so I got to go to the library and renew it because I have to show like an electric bill to show I still live here, and I just haven't yet. I was going to go on there and start learning some JavaScript, and it's like, your library card's expired. But yeah, that one's huge.
Yep. So now as we start our way down the hill, again, remember this is in alphabetical order because I probably would have put this last, but luxury. You have to have things out there where money does not matter. Anything that you want can go on this list. So John, when you're making it rain, well, what's on your list?
Oh man. So I have a couple things, but the first one, like, man, if I could just go for it, I would upgrade all the monitors in my office to the 49-inch Samsung monitors that are like 3 grand. They're pretty expensive. Maybe they're not that much anymore, but when I first looked at them, there were ultra wide monitors. I'd have like two of them stacked. Like I'd spend probably a good, $5,000 to $10,000 on monitors if I could. Got to be a little more like specific with what you spend money on in those cases. I have a 34 inch, which is really great. So it's a wide monitor and then a vertical mounted like 20-inch. But if I could have an ultra wide, I'd be so pumped. So that's kind of like one of my luxury ones. And then really, really over the top, if you really want to surprise that special tech geek someone for Christmas, a Tesla, honestly. And I know a lot of people would be like, what the heck? They are the craziest cars ever. So like if you've never been in one, go test drive one or get an Uber that is one or something. It's like the craziest thing. They drive themselves, literally they drive themselves. Like I know like a lot of people probably think that's a little far-fetched. No, it really navigates turns and stops, and the first time you experience it, it's like the weirdest thing that the car's just driving itself. So super interesting. They use a lot of AI and machine learning and all this crazy stuff to recognize how the car should drive. And they just added an update where you can summon your car to you. So you can be standing at the grocery store's front door and the car drives up and you just get in and drive away. I've done it once and it scared the heck out of me. I walked out and the visors were on the window because of the sun visors, and it drove up and people were looking at it like, what in the heck? And yeah, I just got in and drove off, and it was like the craziest thing. I don't know who's responsible if you summon it and it goes and crashes into something, but yeah, definitely an interesting thing. Teslas, if you really want to surprise someone, go for it, I guess. But as a tech nerd, I'm just always in there like, man, how do they do this? And all these like little things that you start to see happen. It's just like, wow, that's interesting. Like another thing offline that Adam Thomas mentioned was the ultrasonic sensors, how they work on cars in general on cars, but it's stuff you can nerd out on quite a bit, which is fun. So yeah, that's probably my top of the line luxury item is a Model 3 or Model Y from Tesla. Those are the ones that I've been in, so those are the ones I could speak to.
I don't own one. I've driven them one. They're very cool. But being from up here in the Great White North, they are definitely climate dependent. They
Yeah,
don't like really cold weather, but still very
definitely.
cool and still definitely a luxury. For me, again, in my mind, anything goes. So first off is I'd love to have a spot. A little
Oh my
robotic
gosh.
dog from Boston Dynamics. I have no need for it around the house, but I would love to have one. And then if we're really shooting for the moon, when I retire, I have this beautiful new house I designed on Revit out on an acreage somewhere. I would love
There
a
you go.
five-axis CNC machine on a fully decked out wood shop with every Milwaukee power tool ever made. If that's not luxury,
Dude,
I don't know what is.
man, that's the dream right there.
There it is. It'll never happen, but man,
And then
it'd
your
be
little
nice if it
spot
did.
dogs walking around
Yeah,
too.
he brings me the tool. Go get me the planer or the router or whatever it is. That would be amazing.
Well, and then
Someday.
like a spot's within reach, like if you have the money. So it's possible. It's
Yep. I mean, I think they're like 10 grand
oh, are
ish.
they that? Oh, okay. I thought they
Um,
were like 40.
no,
Yeah.
they did come down quite a bit after they came out,
Wow.
and now there's a lot of them out there. So, I,
We're gonna have to
I
go halfers then.
there you go. We'll shared custody on a spot.
Awesome.
Uh, Amazing. Next is outdoors. Everyone's techie, but you got to get outside. You got to get the fresh air. What's your
Absolutely.
outdoor? I guess not hacks. Your outdoor gifts.
Yeah. So I got a couple here, but I cook outside like most of us, right? One of the things I got into pretty heavily after so my wife and I moved to Austin, Texas in 2019, and then we moved back to New Mexico in 2020 when everything kind of went crazy. When we got back, I got a smoker and I started like smoking meats like all the time just because like, in Austin, that's like the barbecue capital of the world over there. And smoking meat with real wood, like logs, like real firewood, is really awesome. But cutting up the firewood sucks a lot, especially with an axe. And it's not the safest thing in the world. So one thing that I bought a year ago, roughly, was a mini chainsaw. It's a Ryobi mini chainsaw that just takes a Ryobi battery, and you're able to chop things up real quick and easy. I've also chopped up boxes with that thing, like those big, thick boxes that like furniture come in. I've used the chainsaw just to rip through those to throw it in the recycle bin. So a really good purchase. I wish I would have got it sooner just because it's just so easy to use and you're just ripping through logs with it. And if you have Ryobi batteries, like a bunch of them, it's just really easy. Another one kind of grill related outdoor stuff is a Blackstone griddle. I got one of those in the last year as well, and I haven't used my regular grill since I got it. So it's a really great piece of equipment, like to be able to cook on outside. So all mine are cooking related, I think, basically. The chainsaw kind of isn't, but it is. That's what I use it for. But yeah.
I like
Yep.
them both. For me, I went with a camping light. So it's like string of light. It's a tiny little, it almost looks like one of those, push on, push off lights, but inside it is 50 feet of tiny little LED lights. And so whether it's at the trailer or when you're camping, it's USB-C chargeable. It's super easy. You string it out. You've got 50 foot of light around so you can see. Super economical. I think it's like 30 or $40 on Amazon. My secondary, I guess I could have snuck this in luxury, but again, at some point I do plan to retire and have a nice plot of land, is the John Deere Series 1 tractor. It's the transformer of lawn tractors. You can put anything on it. I grew up on a little hobby farm, John Deere through and through. So yeah, if I'm ever going to go crazy, that's what it's going to be, and it's definitely going to be outside. So I thought it was fitting.
That's awesome.
Kind of like this guy right here,
Oh,
sits on
dude.
my desk.
Having land, like some acreage and like just being able to go out and work your land with your tractor and all, like that just sounds so awesome.
It does. Someday, something to aspire to for sure.
There we go.
The next one, which is fitting for what we're doing, what sort of techie stuff to use for podcasts, videos, YouTube, that sort of thing, to make what we're doing easier to create, but also for others to consume.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a big one for me, and this probably could have gone under travel as well, but I got this the last year. It's an Osmo Pocket 3. It's a gimbal camera with a 1 inch sensor, which means it's really good quality. This thing's been fantastic. This is a battery handle on it, so it kind of, charges it and all that stuff. But it's really quick to turn on. You just flip the screen. I'll cover my eyes that way my other camera focuses. And then it balances the gimbal. This thing's great. It's not like waterproof like a GoPro or anything, so you don't want to be like doing anything crazy. I used to use a GoPro quite a bit for recording things, so like if anyone saw the built vlogs I did back in built 2022, those were all on a GoPro. This wasn't out yet. GoPros are cool, but they are meant for action, so they're smaller sensors and all that good stuff. This thing has been great, and they're not crazy expensive, but if you have someone who's into recording things and they got one of these, I think they'd be pretty pumped. A lot of YouTubers are actually switching from big camera setups to these little things because they're so easy to use. You can also just plug it right into the computer and use it as a webcam. So it instantly is a webcam that's pickable with Zoom or Teams or whatever you're using. On that same note, like along with the camera, they have an accessory that's really great. It's their pocket mics. So if you want really good audio on the camera or your phone or anything, these little pocket mics are really great as well. So they have a receiver and then two transmitters. These hook to your computer as well, and you just clip it on and they sound really great. And then they hook to the camera as well. And there's two transmitters so that way you can record two people's audio, which is cool. So yeah, DJI products are really great. Everyone knows them for their drones, but what I think they sneakily did the last few years is they worked really hard on these little camera sensors on their drones. And then they're like, let's just throw that into a handheld device and it'll sell like crazy. And they did, and it's a really great camera. So yeah, those are kind of my two items that are together.
Very cool. For me, it came from John, the idea of using Descript. That's what we use to edit this. AI takes out the ums and the ahs, gives me a transcript, does a lot of really cool stuff. And it is the paid tier, but there's higher tiers. You can get a lot of it, and it's just really value add. And the other nice thing about it is that you can have a yearly subscription, obviously a little bit cheaper. But if you do short windows where you only need it for, a couple of months, you can get a monthly subscription as well. So use it when you need it. So very cool. The other thing that I use for this, which isn't necessarily podcast related, but I use it for this, is a little program called Tiny Kiwi. No idea where the name came from, but basically it allows you to create images for social media. They have templates. You can add in text. You can add in things, and it's all pre-designed to make it easy to create things that are the right content, right size, right aspect ratio for social media. So yeah, really handy to help that. You'll see whenever you look at the Wrenches, Gadgets, and Hacks Instagram feed, those funny little images come from that. So handy little tool for those that aren't graphic designers like I am not. The next one, tech accessories. It's a catch-all, but you things that you need when you're somewhere to make your tech work.
Yeah. So I have all this stuff in my drawer, which is awesome. I could make this list go on forever for sure. So I picked some of the ones that are like really that have been great to me this last year. A lot of people know about this one. It's the MX Master 3. 3S is the one I have. Mouse from Logitech. Yeah. This mouse is amazing. Like it's the talking about a mouse and saying like you love it feels weird, but it's like the best mouse ever. It just connects seamlessly to things. It works great. It's easy to travel with, and it's just really comfortable. Aaron actually got me hooked on these mice back when it was the MX Master 1 or 2, back when I started at Parallax. And he sent me one with my work computer, and I was like, man, this thing's great. So I bought one for my personal use, bought one for Vanessa, bought another. Like I've bought so many of these mice, and they last a really long time. The only reason I upgraded is because my two, I think the battery was going, and then the three was out, and it's USB-C rechargeable instead of micro. I hate micro USB cables. Just a side note, and a lot of crap still goes with micro USB cables. This one's USB-C, and piggybacked on that is like their keyboard too. So the MX Master keys, great keyboard, wireless USB-C. Those are kind of one and the same in my mind. And then this one could probably be travel as well. So it'll kind of tie into both. But a travel charging hub. So this is an Anchor that has 3 USB-As and 3 USB-Cs. And then it just takes like, like the computer plugs. I bought this earlier this year for travel because I got tired of having like a bunch of the little dongles with me, and it's been great. I couple it with I think 6 foot USB cables, so I just have this plugged in on like the dresser of a hotel room, and then all of our stuff's just plugged into it. So it's been really great to use, and all of that's all stored right in this little travel pouch that I have as well. So this is a PJY Tech travel pouch. So this is all my cables for travel. So whenever I'm like going traveling, this goes with me, and I have everything to plug everything in. I don't have to take cables from home or anything like that. So that's also been a really great thing as a travel pouch. It doesn't have to be this one, just any pouch of cables just to kind of have to grab and go is really nice.
All great stuff. I love the idea of the charging hub. I have batteries and I have different things, but the idea to have it all in one spot, I think, is a game changer. I'm definitely adding that to my list. For me, my number one tech accessory, and if you were a speaker for Built, I want to say 2017, I think it was Toronto, but I'm not sure. It's called the Super Bagel. It's by Magix. It's like magic, but with an O. And basically, it's round. It looks like a bagel. The reason it's a bagel instead of a donut is because it's filled. So allows you to plug in and have up to 6 things charging like a power cord, but it also comes with adapters so you can use it anywhere in the world. It stays in the bottom of my bag. I never leave home without it. It's an amazing little thing. For side things that, again, I would keep in that little pouch that John showed or in my backpack, an HDMI coupler. I can't remember how many times, especially back in my training days, you would get to a room where you have to show your computer and they go, oh yeah, we've got 6 inches of HDMI cable. So it's just a tiny little coupler that allows you to make two HDMI cables into one. It's been a lifesaver more times than I can count. And of course, we all live the dongle life. And as John mentioned, hate the micro charger. So USB-C is the way to go, but we're not all the way there yet. So an
Mhm.
adapter to go from USB-A to USB-C and the flip, you need it both ways. You need that in your bag because you're going to run into it. You need to have that. Otherwise, you're going to be up creek without a paddle. And I'm sure, as John can attest, as someone that does techie stuff, your bag just nothing ever comes out of it, but stuff always gets added into it.
Yeah.
Which is a beautiful segue into number 11.
Yeah. So travel, like I said, some of that stuff could have kind of piggybacked on it as well. Something I bought, gosh, when was it? It was a few years ago, 2019. I've had this since then. Is a travel router. So I have a dog. So we've traveled with our dog before. And if you've ever been in hotel Wi-Fi and you connect, there's something called a captive portal. It's where you have to say, yes, I won't do anything crazy on your Wi-Fi and all that stuff. That's all fine when you're on a phone or a laptop. If you're trying to hook like a camera or something to keep an eye on your dog in the hotel room, you can't bypass a captive portal because there's no way to click OK through like a camera. So like if you hook like a Google Nest camera or something to your hotel's Wi-Fi, it just won't ever work. So you need some way to kind of jump around that. So that's when I started researching these. It's this little thing that's a sticker I put on it, but it's this one's TP link as well. It's a AC 750, but it has an Ethernet port on it as well. But it has this little switch that tells you to share Wi-Fi or not. So what you do is you hook this up. It's a micro USB, so you hook this up to just a USB hub, and then you log on to the Wi-Fi network on this, and then it has an interface that lets you pick the hotel Wi-Fi from like your phone or laptop, and then the captive portal will shoot through, and this will actually jump through that captive portal and broadcast your own SSID for like a Wi-Fi network in your hotel room. So you might be at like a Hilton, so it's Hilton Honors Wi-Fi, but you're broadcasting John's Cool Wi-Fi in your room, and you can hook all your devices to that. I actually mirror my Wi-Fi name from home. So whenever I take things with me, they just hook up to my hotel Wi-Fi the minute I plug them in. So like computers, things like a Google Nest camera I bring with me if I have my dog or something that I want to keep an eye on. It works really well. Another thing this is really good for is it also does Mac cloning. So like let's say you buy Wi-Fi somewhere on your phone and now it's tied to your phone as the Wi-Fi that you purchased, you can tell this to clone your MAC address of your phone, and now this looks like your phone on the Wi-Fi. So really, really great way to work around things while traveling. You buy the Wi-Fi on your phone, tell it clone your phone's MAC address, and now 5 devices can get the Wi-Fi. So it's been really great for that stuff to use for. I'm sure it does a ton of other things. There's a little USB port on here that I think lets you plug in like a Wi-Fi stick from like a cellular carrier. But yeah, this is always in my bag and it's been in there since 2019. So it's always with me. And it's one of the first things I do once I get in the hotel room is I get that Wi-Fi set up. So yeah.
That's very cool. I didn't even know that was a thing. So as I said at the beginning, you're going to learn something. I just did. So I think that's very cool. I went a slightly different route with my travel in that you have to have a good travel backpack.
Absolutely.
I'm an OGO guy, OGIO. I've been using a version of their Renegade since 2010 or before. All the spots, all the stuff, nothing ever comes out of it. So you got to have a good backpack. Everyone has a different brand. That's fine. But once you find one, you tend to stick with it. The other thing that I don't have, but I think would be really cool, and this kind of goes back to what you were talking about with your Oswald Pocket. I think a 3D, not a 3D, a 360 camera would be very cool, and you can get those
Definitely.
pretty inexpensive nowadays. You see a lot of them out there, and they have the little trick where they make the selfie stick disappear. Very cool. A lot of really cool stuff. You go into conferences and stuff. It allows you to get pictures, panoramics, 360s, and again, very, very economical these days.
hmm Yeah, they used to be really expensive, like thousands of dollars, and now you can get like, you mentioned the One X2, you can get that one for like $200 or something. And
Yeah.
360 camera is something I don't have, but it's been on my wish list for a while to buy. I have a bunch of cameras, so I kind of have a hard time justifying it right now. But man, those cameras are cool. You just stick it in the air and it captures everything, and then you
Yep.
frame it later, which is just so awesome.
And that brings us to our last category at the end, alphabetical, of course, the wild card. What didn't we think to talk about? Now's the time we talk about it.
Really. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of things, I think this kind of ties into travel too, but as people may know who listen, my wife and I had our first baby last year, so we've added things to our list that we've never thought would be there. So, and I know a lot of people, like tech people, a lot of us have kids these days, especially. So mine's kind of a random one, a wild card. We bought this travel high chair. So it looks, like the folding camp chairs that fold down in the little bag. It's a high chair that's very similar, and you're able to sit it in the seat next to you whenever you're traveling. We got it on Amazon. The specific one that we have is called Hiccup Hop brand. It's like $35, but it has a little table for the baby to sit at, and it folds up. And yeah, it's just been really, really useful. And every time we went somewhere and used it, people are like, what is that? So it's one of those ones I thought was worth mentioning just because I know we like traveling. I know a lot of like us tech people like traveling. Anytime there's a conference, I tend to try to make sure my family goes with me. That way we can go explore. We visited so many places that we could have never been had it not been for our industry and the work we do. And with a baby now, like this chair would be in our bag as well. That'd be part of it. Another one is people might think it's crazy to potentially travel with a vacuum, and we didn't last time we traveled, but we regretted it because I saw someone else with a vacuum. That's another one of these things from Fantic. So that's the screwdriver brand,
Yep.
the same people who make that screwdriver. This thing is amazing, and it's literally, it's the size of like a little drill. We use this all the time because in car seats and things like that, there's like little crackers and all this stuff. We use this all the time just to vacuum stuff up in the car. And it's definitely going into our carry-on next time we travel because it's just so easy just to vacuum up a mess that might have happened. And it's from that same brand that my screwdriver is. I think this is like maybe $40 or something. USB-C rechargeable too, so that was a selling point for me. But yeah, travel items for traveling with kids, or if you're just especially messy as well, potentially.
So that could go to traveling with pets too. The
Yeah,
messy
yeah.
part, yeah.
We traveled with a full size vac with one of my dogs once because it was just a lot of hair. We're like we felt so guilty if we're leaving hair in the pet friendly room, mind you. Like we weren't doing anything weird. It's just I was like, no, I'm gonna vacuum up where he was just because I feel guilty for the cleaners to have to deal with that. So if I had this, that would have been awesome at the time. But yeah, I think we took it was a Wise vacuum is what the brand is.
Nice. Very cool. And wild card for a reason. I think those fit in. For me, I went a little more on the crafty DIY side for an X tool. Again, I'm sure you've seen
Yes.
things, but basically it's a laser cutter, laser engraver, does a little bit of everything. Who doesn't want a
Hmm.
laser at home? One of my previous roles back in the day, I worked for a company that made custom things. I got to run a CNC machine, and I also got to run a CNC laser. So I know that they're super cool, and to have one at home would be awesome. The other thing that's, I don't know if it's really a wild card, but it's something that I bought that I never thought I would talk about, but it's an AECO Tank printer. The fact that I use a printer, not all the time, but in spurts, that in the past, literally like Shaq says, the cartridge would be dry, it wouldn't work, I wouldn't get my money out of it. And just having a tank full of ink, it never dries out. It's always there when I need it. It's just dependable. Yes, you pay more for the printer, but you're not held hostage by cartridges and the crazy price of
Hmm.
inks. And who said marketing doesn't?
Yeah,
Because Shaq
for
got
sure. I've seen the eco tanks because of sublimation printing,
me. Mm-hmm.
which is another thing craft related. So
Yep.
we've had our eye on one of those for a while for that as well. And then I just got to add the X tool. I purchased, what's the brand? Glowforge.
Mm-hmm.
Glowforge.
Yep.
What's the new one? The little one? I forgot the name of it
I
right
don't remember,
now.
but like it almost looks like a handheld.
Spark. Yeah, so I purchased the Glowforge Spark to be able to laser cut things. And it works well. Like I don't have a lot of complaints about it. It's like an 8.5 by 11 cut surface. But after I bought it, I started getting ads for the X tool, and I had never seen the X tool before. And I was like, son of a gun, I would have bought that one before I bought the Glowforge. That's very into subscriptions.
Mm-hmm.
Glowforge is very subscription based. Xtool is very hackable. So yeah, that one looks awesome, and that would be on my list as well. And they sell refurbished ones for really cheap, kind of on that same idea as well. So if you're in the market for a laser cutter, or it does engraving too, which is really cool. That one looks like a great one. Um,
Yeah. And they also have a lot of Black Friday sales on right now. And similar to what your story there, when I was looking at the X tools, once I put it on my list and copied the link, I started getting feeds for We Create, which is just like X Tool. It's like a Creality versus a Bamboo Labs, but it does the same thing, the same types of tool, just a different company. So there's obviously more brands out there than just the X Tool. But yeah, so we've got through all 12 days, all 12 categories. We've brought it to the end. This is where we usually ask our guests for a hack. I have a little hack of my own, but do you have any hacks to add before we bring the plane in for a landing, John?
yeah, so one that I discovered recently that I thought's kind of cool is let's say you share an Amazon account with your significant other. and you're trying to buy things for Christmas and you want to kind of keep it secret, right? You don't need to start a whole new Amazon account. You are able to add members to Amazon. So you can have profiles that each have kind of their own order history. You can also add business accounts that are separate. But you should, from my limited reading of it, you should be able to create a profile. That way purchases are tied to that profile. So if you're buying that really cool, 360 camera for Carl, and you share an Amazon account with him, add another profile first. That way that shows up in there and he won't know that you ordered it, right? So yeah, that was one that I discovered recently for that. In the past, like I'll order something and then I'll jump in and I'll archive the order in a hurry. That way it's hidden just because you don't want to spoil the surprise. More often than not, I'm excited and end up giving the gift too fast anyway. But yeah, that one's definitely a good way to handle if you're buying from like Amazon or something like that.
That is a good hack. I've also used Amazon for the reverse of that, which is when you have a shared account, you sneakily throw something on the wish list and say, "Oh, how did
Oh,
that
there you
get
go.
there? I wonder why that's there." I mean,
Like,
it's
what
on
is
sale.
this?
It's right there. You can put it in the cart. But my hack, keeping in line with that, is something that we're using this year for our family gift exchange. I'd never heard of it before, but it's a little tool called Elfster. And basically, you go in there, you invite people. You can invite through text or email or whatever. And basically, it automates the idea of a gift exchange. It will draw names so you don't know who you get. You get an email for who your gift exchange is. You set a limit. So not only does it allow you to do this so you can see a list that people create a list of things they want. So you're doing a gift exchange and sharing things that people actually want to get. It also, of course, ties into Amazon and all these other places so you can make it easy so they can literally click a button and ship the gift to you. And if you want something from a website that's not tied, you can add it in. It's a really cool tool. It's free, of course, with all the tie-ins, but it's a good way to orchestrate a gift exchange if you want to and have it sort of run in a fun way and get those gift lists. So it's a really cool tool that we're using this year, and I think it's something we might use from here on in. And with that, we've come
That's
to the
very cool.
end. We've 100% obliterated the half-hour timeline, but I think this is definitely worth it. There's a lot of really cool stuff on here. Again, if you've never been to the show notes website, wghfeed.com, it's definitely worth it because all of these things will be listed there. We know you want some or all of them, so go check it out. And with that, I say thank you very much for joining us on another episode of Wrenches, Gadgets, and Hacks, the last one of the year, where we explore tools, technologies, and time-saving hacks to shape the future and your Christmas giving list. If you enjoyed the episode, remember to subscribe somewhere down here. Stay tuned for more insightful and exciting things from the world of AECO and technology. And until next time, keep building, innovating, and exploring the possibilities.